just a relatively short presentation, and then I want to open it up and make sure that I can answer all of your questions, and hopefully you'll leave today feeling really good about your opportunities and kind of understanding what there is to do with undergraduate research and why it's important for you to try and take advantage of those kinds of opportunities while they're available to you for you. So first off, happy St. Patrick's Day. I can't really pinch through the camera, so I hope everybody's wearing green. Wear green Tuesday, wear green Wednesday this week. We get a lot of green in. So I want to start with just kind of talk about like what is research? What does it really mean? And so I have a definition up here on the screen, and what I really want to emphasize is this idea of the word new, and I've highlighted it in several places under the traditional Wikipedia definition for research. Right. And that makes engaging in research as an undergraduate a little bit different than what many students have encountered throughout their education up to this point. Most of the time, as students, you're sitting in the classroom, you're trying to learn, you're trying to assimilate content, and the teacher is asking you questions, and you know that the teacher has the answers, right? And so what you are doing is trying to study that material, trying to respond to the questions that they're asking you, and looking for confirmation or affirmation that you got it right. Right. Well, when we're dealing with new information, we're dealing with the unknown, right? Nobody has the answer. Nobody really knows for sure, right? You can have ideas, you can have thoughts, you can have hypotheses, depending on the discipline that we're in and how we're talking about it. But nobody really knows what the actual answer is. And so there is no way to have that affirmation, that confirmation. Your mentor, the person who you're doing research with, doesn't know whether you did it right yet, doesn't know whether the results are consistent or not, and doesn't have the answer. And that means you're dealing with a lot of ambiguity, and it looks a little bit different. Okay, it's not the same way that we learn in terms of the K through 12 traditional, sort of model. But research is really important for just about every career, and we think in particular in healthcare and in the sciences, right? Learning new things, advancing sort of our understanding of what we know or what we think we know, right, is how we develop new cures, how we develop new interventions, how we develop new technologies. Right, so that research becomes absolutely pivotal in this set of careers, but is used in just about every career, right? When we talk about AI replacing jobs, we're talking about the jobs where people aren't creating things, where people aren't pushing the boundaries, where people aren't developing new. We're talking about things where it's the same thing every single time. That's where AI replaces a job. Nobody really wants to do that job anyway. Let's be honest. Right, we want to go in, we want to problem solve, we want to be challenged, we want to come up with a task, and we want to be able to figure out what's the best way to proceed. And that requires the skills from research. So if research is required in every career, right, you want to get involved with it as early as possible. Because the more experience you have, the more comfortable you are dealing with that ambiguity. So the analogy I used to give my students was, imagine that you are standing on a street corner, think some black and white movie where there's some, street light above your head and this cone of light. You're an individual standing in that cone of light, and the surrounding is all dark. We've all kind of seen that cartoon, right? And I would say my job as the mentor, the person who's guiding you in this research experience, is you are standing in that cone of light. What you can see, what is illuminated, is what you know, what you already know. But as we know, there's a whole vast darkness all around us that we don't know, we don't understand. We're comfortable standing in the light because we can see, we know, right? But to a certain extent, where our eyes adapt to the light, right? So we can't really see beyond that line, right? So my job as the mentor is to stand behind you, a little bit violent, I'll tell you, but I just tell students that my job is to shove you out into the darkness. And at first you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? I don't know if there's curb there. I don't know if the street's there. What am I going to fall in a hole? Well, when you land safely, right, as a mentor, my role is to make sure that I'm not pushing you off the cliff, right, to keep you into these spaces where where I have maybe a little bit more light or can see a little bit better. Till you land and realize, oh, it's really okay. But I'm safe, right? But I've kind of learned something new. Oh, now there's a curb here, or oh, there's a space here. And then you come back to the light. But what happens is because you now know that that's a safe space, you understand that space, your cone of light has now expanded. Right? You've learned something new and you've added to your repertoire. And so what happens is when you're comfortable in research, you're comfortable stepping out into that darkness on your own and expanding your cone of light, expanding what it is that you know and learn. So as an undergraduate, right, what you want is people who have a bigger cone of light, right, more experience, those mentors to help guide you and understand what that process is. How do you test the unknown waters and do it in a way that allows you to learn. So that's where undergraduate research comes in. You have a mentor assigned to you. They're helping you understand the process. They're helping you get comfortable in this. And along the way, right, you're contributing to knowledge. You're learning new things. And I'll give a personal example from the healthcare side of things. I suffered from kidney stones a little over a year ago. I gone to the physician, told him what was going on, had a lot of pain. He's like, "Oh yeah, you have a kidney stone." He's like, "Let's see if we pass it." So they sent me for imaging. They couldn't find the one kidney stone anymore after the first round of imaging. They saw it, the second round of imaging, they couldn't find it. And he's like, "I think you passed it." And I kept saying, my symptoms have changed. My symptoms are still there. I don't think I passed it. "Oh no, you've passed it." Well, I called a former research student of mine who is now a urologist, and I called him up on the phone and I said, "Hey, here's what I'm going through. What's going through?" He's like, "Yeah, your stone moved." And he like walked me through everything. So I went back to the doctor. I said, "Hey, now I have these symptoms. Here's what's going on." Kind of walked through with everything. Eventually had the surgery, had the stone removed, and the doctor looked at me and said, when I was in medical school, they taught us that kidney stones can present with these different symptoms depending on where they are. I just never had a patient that presented with all the symptoms as the stone moved from the ureter right into the bladder on down, all the different ways. Like the lack of critical thinking to kind of think, oh, this is all connected, right? This is a skill that comes through research, right? He was taught, oh, if it's here, it presents this way. If it's here, it presents this way. It's here, but he wasn't seeing the connections between them. And that's where research fills in to help you be a better provider, right? A better physician, a better scientist, whatever it is. So getting this experience as an undergraduate really helps you. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. So in my office, our flagship program, which is our largest program, is the OUR Scholars Program. We serve a little over 200 students a year through the OUR Scholars Program, which is an introduction to intermediate level of research. You are getting paired with a mentor, but for many students, about 75% of the students in the program, it's their first experience. Only about 25% each semester are coming back for a second or third round, but it's really about getting you connected and opening doors to other programs. If you're and in the OUR Scholars Program, we work with every college across campus, so almost every major, every discipline gets represented throughout the years. We also have a community engaged scholars program if you really are interested in working with community partners as well as faculty members on campus to really see how that new knowledge impacts not just the university and the academic setting, but actually in the Charlotte community. Once you have a little bit of experience, we have opportunities to get mini grants with us. These are sort of like your capstone projects for the advanced level. Like I've got some research experience. I'm ready to propose my own question. I'm ready to plan the budget. I'm ready to build all these leadership skills and all kinds of different skill set that I can use in my career. And that's our Surge grant. But there are also ways you can get research through the curriculum. So whether you're in the honors program or there might be independent study, there may be courses in the department that may be available to you for research, or there may be courses that are called cures, course-based undergraduate research experience, where it might just be a genetics class, but you're actually working on research as part of that class and developing some of those skills. So these are things to ask your advisors and your faculty about where there are opportunities. There are other paid positions in the sciences in particular. There are a lot of positions available in the summer off campus. So if you have that first experience on campus, being able to access external internships becomes much more likely. Almost every medical school around the country has a summer program. Those applications are usually due January and February or so. So now is like kind of the decision time, but good opportunities to kind of access. You want to go check out a different city, live in a different place for a few months. A lot of times they pay housing, pay your summer salary, sometimes even food and things like that. There are companies that may have internships that use research as well, and you might even be able to find your own small grants. There are some opportunities. We have some resources on our website to help you find some of those things. So there are lots of ways to get involved in undergraduate research. Just to keep your mind open and certainly come and talk to myself or my staff, and we'll be happy to help you out find those. So I'm going to focus on the top part of this diagram, and I've got these slides and make them available through the Career Center that have their hyperlinked everything in here. But all the ways in which OUR helps support students are here across the sort of top. So we do have professional development workshops are open to all students. You guys are welcome to come anytime. During the semester, they're usually offered on Monday afternoons. In summer, they're offered on Tuesday mornings. We have symposia, opportunities to share research within our community. The next one coming up is the Undergraduate Research Conference, which will have over 250 presentations this year. It's going to be our second largest ever. And we'll have probably close to 300 student presenters involved or more, student presenters involved in that conference. It's a great way to kind of see what's going on all across campus. We have research courses, intro courses that can help you kind of build some skills to get you ready for research. And we have, again, as I mentioned, the different opportunities. If you work on research and you're looking out to publish, there's an undergraduate research journal called Ethel that works through OUR. It is a student org now. So if you're interested in learning more about publication process, you can volunteer as a reviewer. There are editorial board positions available, as well as get research published. And if you have the opportunity to maybe attend a professional meeting, present your research, talk a little bit, network with other professionals, we can also help support your travel. So in a couple of weeks, there's 20 students, for example, that we're piling into vans and heading up to the National Conference on Undergraduate Research in Richmond, Virginia. So lots of different ways. We have some on-campus opportunities as well for networking, meeting mentors, learning more about the programs. That our next one is actually tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Pop Martin Student Union 200. We'll have the fall program is going on now. We're accepting applications, and we'll have an opportunity to meet some of the mentors. So how do you access research opportunities as an undergraduate? This is where I'm going to finish up. Right? First thing I would do is recommend, if you aren't already, talk to the faculty members who are teaching your courses. Tell them you're interested in doing research. Tell them you want to learn more. Tell them what you're interested in. If they don't have a research project that fits you, they might be able to tell you who to talk to or steer you to the person that can help you find an opportunity. Really want to encourage you to attend our symposia. As I said, the next one is the Undergraduate Research Conference, or URC. That's on April 24th. You can go talk to other students, right, who are in these spaces, who are doing research now, find out how they got in, right? Ask if they can introduce you to somebody, find out if there's opportunities. Maybe they're graduating and they're looking for recruiting new students, right? You can find out what the mentorship is like. What is it like to be in that space? What does it look like, right? How do I understand what research means? And then once you talk to people, whether you talk to myself, talk to other students, reflect on that, make sure that this is what you want to do. Again, research is not right for every person necessarily. Some people really like to dive deep. I've had other students who worked in my space, worked in my lab, have a semester in and be like, that's really cool, but that's not really what motivates me. That's not how I want to spend every day. And that's okay. You had the experience, you learned from it, they got skills from it. But then you move on and you realize, okay, I want to do something else, right? And again, check back with us regularly. I put the QR code takes you to our link tree, so you can access our YouTube videos, so you can find our marketing materials online, etc. And then check our announcements for what's going on. So again, those key dates that are coming up, I will point out, this is our fall application cycle. So for the fall semester, we're recruiting applications now. So I know it's weird to be thinking, we just feel like we just started the spring, but it's really time to be thinking about the fall already. Summer's already kind of passed, believe it or not, even though we haven't gotten there yet. And so March 26th is the last day for that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about that program, what that looks like. And again, April 24th is the URC. So really recommend you attend. So with that, I want to basically spend most of the time answering your questions and not be a talking head. So I'm going to stop that.
Yes, students, if you could come off mute, throw something in the chat, or open up your cameras, we would love to have that participation.
So for someone who is like, it's my first time doing research, how competitive is OUR if I don't have prior experience? Like, how likely am I going to get in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Historically, over the last year or so, two, I guess I can speak to. Currently, we are working on a matching rate for students that is about 1 in 3. So you imagine a cycle. If we get 300 applications, we get about 100 matches, give or take. And we also have it's a sort of two-step process where the mentors propose projects. So give you an idea for the faculty, the mentors, it's about a 2 in 3. So not every mentor gets matched every cycle. Not every student gets matched every cycle. But what we're really trying to keep at that 1 in 3 range, because that means, again, if you apply multiple times, the likelihood that we can get you an experience within a year is pretty high. What I would recommend is if you do apply and you don't get matched, most important thing is to ask for feedback. Schedule a meeting, come in and check with us. We'll be happy to review your application. Once we have how the application was reviewed, we can give you some general advice. I won't share exactly what the reviews were from the mentors or anything like that, but I can give you general advice on, hey, you might need to you might need to focus on classes for a semester, or you might, because there's some concerns about your GPA, or you might be able to, if these mentors don't seem to know you from what I'm learning, like, have you talked to the mentors? Have you scheduled individual meetings? That could increase your chances. Or maybe you had some typos in your application and folks picked up on that. And hey, make sure you're proofreading and double checking and writing sort of authentically and not just sort of copying and pasting a standard AI generated response, but really talking to what your interests are. And we can really coach you and help you improve the likelihood that you can get matched.
I have a question. So how would you go about, like, how would you know if you didn't get research? Like, do you guys inform you, like, hey, unfortunately, we weren't able to match you with anyone? And then, with that email, like, we respond to that, and that's how we set up a meeting with you, or is there like an office, or how do we figure that out?
Yes. So we always communicate out. We use a competitions portal. It's actually the same competitions portal that the grad school uses. So if you end up like interested in grad school or whatever, it'd be the same thing you would use there. Once you apply in, you can track your application. You can kind of see it as it moves through the steps. Your status will change. It'll tell you whether it's been accepted into I wish they'd use different language, but it tells you accepted, meaning it's been accepted into the system. And then you can kind of see as your reviews are going on, when your reviews are completed, and then it'll ultimately go to an awarded or rejected status, and you will receive email communication when that status changes either way. So that always comes out. Usually takes us, give you an idea, right? There is no priority review, so we don't review applications until the deadline. So we do have some students who are like, well, I submitted on the first day, well, I haven't heard yet. Well, still start review until after the deadline. There's no reason to rush. Also, don't wait till the deadline because you don't want to miss it. But then the review takes about a week, right? Because you can imagine, for example, the summer program that we're working on right now, we had 370 applications. So it takes a long time to review all of those applications. Each application picking 3 projects, right? So that's over 1,000 mentor reviews that we have to collect. And then, so it takes at least a week to 10 days to get the reviews done. Then we start looking at where can we match? Where is a faculty member excited about a student, students excited about a faculty member? And we can sort of make those matches. But there's also a lot of puzzle pieces. I don't want to get too complicated, but right. We sometimes we think we figured it out, but then we have to move this student here, move this student here, so that this student gets an opportunity. Otherwise, this student gets left out, right? We do the best we can to maximize the number of students. Offers go out to faculty members first. They confirm the students, then offers go out to the students. Depending on how quickly the faculty member responds, some respond within 15 minutes, others respond within a week or 10 days. That determines how quickly the offer goes out to students. If students respond quickly and we know the money is locked up, then that allows us to conclude the process quickly. If students drag their feet and wait and miss deadlines and we have to keep bugging them to get a response, or students decline the position and then we start over again, right back for that money, we go back to a new faculty member, right, potentially, whatever. It takes a while. So it usually takes, we put on our website, usually takes 3 to 4 weeks from that deadline for us to kind of get through that process. But you will hear one way or another. Yeah, always. And then that's a good place. Yes, you get that email. That's a great time to respond back. We do have open office hours this semester. They're every Monday, I think it's 12 to 1:30, and Thursday, 11 to 12:30. So those are drop-in hours. Doors are always open. We have student staff and professional staff here at those times. So those are great times to just drop in. And we can always look at your status at that time, give you a heads up, kind of tell you where things stand. Or you can schedule appointments as well. We have lots of other times that we can work with, but those we try and keep open all the time.
Is it possible to get involved in research if you haven't seen any mentors yet because you're a freshman or a first year?
Yes. So I will be honest when I say I think I answered to Nirav's question about was about 1 in 3 students get a match when they apply to our program. I will tell you, first year students, that's probably more like 1 in 4, 1 in 5. And I think part of it is that the mentors don't necessarily know you yet, but we do have a reasonable number of students who are in their first year. The percentage is a little bit lower in the spring. Obviously, first year students can't apply in the fall because they're not here, because you have to be applying now as a high school student to get in the spring or get in the fall or first year. So it's usually the spring or the summer for first year students. The summer acceptance rate's higher than the spring, so the longer you're here, right, it keeps improving. And I I would strongly recommend we have just reaching out to the mentor. So if you would ask me what I think is the best process, as soon as we announce what projects are recruiting, go take a look, find 5 or 6 of them that you're interested in, reach out to those faculty, find out if you can stop by their office hours, find out if there's a chance to just chat with them about their research. Do a little bit of your homework, like read their website, take a look at their research description. You don't need to go read their scientific literature necessarily, but you do want to be familiar with the topic, right? What they're working on. Be prepared to ask some questions. Okay, so when I used to recruit students, the way this would work, student would come in, ask me about my research, I'd give them like my 90-second spiel, and I would say, what questions do you have? If they say, none, that answers all my questions, thanks, great. I'd say, okay, great. And I walk out the door and like my little list of names that I'm keeping, I wrote down their name when they came in, I like X, right? Like that doesn't really actually show commitment. It doesn't show any real interest. It looks like, it seems to me like you're just trying to check a box or pad a resume because you weren't prepared. You can ask me any question about, well, can you tell me how that's related to what I'm learning in class? Or I'm learning this in class, and is that help explain this situation? How does this fit in? Or even just some relatively simple questions. Can you tell me what, if I were to get in your space, what would I expect on a day-to-day basis? What are you asking for from your students? Not what's in the project description for requirements, but really kind of engage them in a conversation. And just ask just questions. Just have series of 3 or 4 questions and let the conversation go. Make sure that you're paying attention and listening intently and asking questions. And that conversation usually goes a long way. Mentors, in my experience, mentors who recognize students when a name comes across their computer screen are more likely to say, yes, I want to work with that student, than if the very first time they see your name is when the application comes across their screen. They have no context for you. They don't know who you are. They're looking at your application, and if it sounds at all like it's just general or AI generated, they're going to be like, no. And so if you don't have that personal connection, your application has to really be stellar and super authentic and something unique about it to catch their attention. Otherwise, you're just unlikely to get a position. But we do place students first year all the way through. The percentages go up. We actually have the highest percentage of students are juniors. So they go up from first year to second year, third year, and then they kind of drop down a little bit for seniors. Just because if you're starting as a senior, sometimes it's a little late. So mentors really like to get students in earlier.
Thank you.
So the question in the chat I see is from Ben is about the best way to start relationships with mentors on campus. I think it's highly variable. It's going to depend a little bit on the mentor. I would recommend, trying to reach out in person if you can. A lot of the departments will have, like particularly in the fall or at the start of a semester, they'll have a meet and greet event, or they'll have a research showcase event, maybe where they have grad students presenting posters. Show up to those things. It's a great way to just informally meet somebody, talk to somebody, about the research that's going on, to hear them kind of share a little bit and ask them some questions. Those kind of in-person, sort of informal meet and greets are really great. If you have a class with them, that's a really good way to, again, make a connection. But sometimes, you don't want to pick your classes based on who you want to do research with, right? You want to pick your classes and then, if this is interesting, let me talk to the faculty member and say, hey, I found this aspect of the class really cool. Are there opportunities to engage with this more deeply? And again, they may say, yes, with me, I'm looking, or may say, hey, go talk to Dr. So-and-so. and I think they might have some opportunities in this area. And I used to do that all the time as a faculty member, refer students to a colleague or have colleagues refer students to me. And again, if you've made a positive impression and you're getting that referral from somebody else, that usually helps you, right? Gets your foot in the door. So that's a strong way of doing it. I think the cold email, the cold call is always really hard. And so if you can do it in person, it's going to be much better. So take advantage of those meet the department events or those networking events. Our symposia, like the URC, if you can get a student recommendation, a peer recommendation, that also goes a long way. Again, I can't speak for everybody, but I will say for me, I always told my students when we were done practicing for them to get ready for the symposium, I always say, hey, when you're at the symposium, when students are asking you questions, if somebody asks really good questions, everybody's got a name tag on. Pay attention to their name, jot it down after they walk away. I want to get those names from you. I want to know what students are really motivated by what we do. So when you are sharing your work and they're excited by it, you tell me, because then I need to pay attention for that student. I need to look for them in my classes. I need to look for them in the application process, etc. So sometimes the grad students and the undergraduate students are also good ways to kind of get on the radar with a mentor so that when you reach out, they're more likely to respond.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What are some like specific skills or courses that make a student stand out in the applications?
I think it's going to vary a little bit based on what the mentor is looking for. So in our program, there's always sort of a requirements piece, and the mentors will say what are sort of the minimum requirements they're looking for, and then a preferences piece. And so anytime you can respond to that and address that in your application will be helpful. If you're applying off campus, right, where you don't have maybe all of that information, I would highlight those career related skills, right? So what experience do you have with problem solving, right? What experience do you have with collaborative teamwork, particularly in the sciences, right? Research is highly collaborative. So we want to know that you work well with others and work well in a team. So if you can give examples to show that, I think that's really important. If you have opportunities of leadership, where you can talk to leadership within a team setting, that's also can be really helpful. Certainly the technical skills help, right? Some faculty might have very specific things. You have to be able to code in Python, or you have to be comfortable using R or something like that. And so if they point that out, addressing those skills directly, I think is really important. Or if you're in a chemistry or molecular biology, you're interested in that. Like, do you have experience working with micropipettes, right? That may be something that needs addressing if you're applying to somebody who doesn't have intimate knowledge of what the curriculum is, like what courses you've taken, things like that. So some of those technical skills also help. But I think that ability to also, one of the key pieces, I think, is also to be able to reflect on why you want to do it, like what you're hoping to get out of it. And my experience has been when students are fairly authentic about, I'm considering multiple things. I really want to weigh my options. I really want to see how this fits into the bigger picture. Like really talking about just being authentically interested in research, as opposed to saying, I want to go to med school, I want to go to grad school, I need research to do that. That sounds like you're trying to check a box, like you don't have a lot of motivation for it, or that your motivation is not in the right place. But when you're talking about what you're hoping to gain from that experience, what you think it will be, so having, being able to reflect on that a little bit, and then again, obviously you can use our staff, we can help you, coach you with that on your application. I think those are the kind of pieces that I would recommend.
Any other questions?
Hi, I had a question. I was wondering if there were any opportunities like our for post grad. I'm graduating a little bit early and I'm taking a gap year as well. And I was wondering if there's any openings if because I know OUR is like targeted for undergrad and technically I would be graduated by then.
Yeah, so for our office, because it is the Office of Undergraduate Research, anyone involved in our programs has to be prior to the degree. And it's always kind of weird, right? It's one of those things where, when you're a sophomore rising to a junior, you're not technically a junior until the year starts in August. But when you're graduating, the moment you walk across that stage, you're graduated, you're done, you're cut off. So for our office, you have to be an undergraduate. So you cannot be, graduating. You can work with us up until that final semester when you're graduating. But once you've graduated, we don't have opportunities. I would check with the graduate school. That's where there might be some opportunities that go beyond the undergraduate period. I am not familiar if UNC Charlotte has like how many post-bac programs or what sort of opportunities exist in that post-bac world. Since I'm not necessarily on the faculty and the academic side, and it's usually department by department that those opportunities exist. But you may inquire with your department as well on whether there's any post-bac funding or post-bac opportunities. Those are most common, I think, in chemistry and biology with NIH funding in the sciences, but it just kind of depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lance, there's a question in the chat. Is there a specific date time that the fall research opportunities will go live?
Yeah, so that application opened on March 2nd, so you can get access to the application now and see the list of projects on our website or through the application. And the deadline is March 26th. So that's when we will start the review process. So the review window goes from, what's that, March 27th to like April 3rd-ish. And so matching will start to occur the following week. And then, faculty offers will go out first. So the first communication with students will probably be somewhere around the 15th of April or so, just because I know I'm out of town at the National Conference for Undergraduate Research the 12th through the 14th. So we won't be reaching out to students at that point. So that's kind of gives you an idea of the timeline to here. And the goal is to wrap up the fall, have all the appointments made, know who's going to be involved in the fall before y'all leave for campus. So, it's close to the first few days of finals week is usually when we try and wrap that program, that cycle up.
Another question in the chat. Is there any course you need to take prior to doing research, like preparing you for, or as kind of a prereq?
Yeah, there isn't any specific course. And again, it's going to depend a little bit on the project. Right. So, and that can be on a mentor by mentor basis. We certainly offer some intro research courses. Our intro research course, which is a UCall course, 2101, that course is really a research literacy course. It is multidisciplinary. So it isn't necessarily going to teach you technical skills in a discipline. It's going to help you explore within your discipline sort of what are the things that you need to know, what are things that you should be familiar with in order to hit the ground running in research. But if you're interested in going into, studying cancer biology with somebody in the biology department, they may, want to see that you have completed an intro cell biology or completed the year of freshman bio or whatever it is. If you're headed into organic chemistry synthesis, right, they may want to see that you've completed at least one semester of organics chemistry. So you have some of that theoretical basis. But it really depends mentor by mentor on what that expectation is. So I would really recommend that you start looking at our applications, even if you're maybe not ready to apply quite yet. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I want to do that in the spring. Well, that's fine, but go ahead and look at our fall application now. See if there are projects you're interested in. What are they asking students to have done? Because then that can tell you, oh, I should prioritize this course. Like I need to have statistics. Like 6 of these mentors that I'm interested in all say you must have statistics completed before I don't have that class, so I should prioritize taking that in the fall. Right, so it's a good way to kind of plan ahead to look at some of those kinds of things that may benefit you.
When you talk about like matching students to 1 and 3, 1 and 4, is this specifically students who apply through the OUR or just reach out to the office? And then second, how often do you see students continuing with their mentor after their OUR semester is completed?
So to answer your first question, I mean, yes, it is based on who applies. And so, like I said, if we get about 300 applications and we match about 100, right, that's sort of in our 1 in 3 number. And so it is based on the applications. For the second question, which is like continuing. So I mentioned about 75 to 80% in any given semester in the OUR scholars are first timers. That is, they're the first time working with that mentor, first time in our program. Of course, because you can get research through the curriculum, you can maybe take an independent study, or you could even volunteer potentially, although I don't necessarily endorse that, but it is an option to build the skills, right? I don't necessarily know that. So you may have some previous experience before you walk in the door. Once you do my program, if that opens up a door, you might work with, Dr. Smith, and Dr. Smith is collaborating with Dr. Jones on the project, and you make a connection with Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones offers you a position in her space with a grant, right? Well, then you're going to leave my program at the end of the semester from Dr. Smith and move over to Dr. Jones and join her team and be on her grant, but I don't necessarily know that. So I don't have good numbers to tell you that. I will say about 25% of the students in our program are, returners. That means they're coming back for a second or third experience. But we also have students that move out into, they get employed, they get hired, or they get put on a grant, or they have access to research in other ways. And then I see there's also a chat about the fall applications open now. What about summer? Summer closed on February 26th. Summer really is, you need to think early. So always. So for the nationally competitive programs, kind of back to Nirav's question as well, those programs, the earliest programs, your Harvards, your Yales, your Princetons, they will have deadlines for summer applications in December. And then the vast majority of programs historically have had their application deadlines be January 15th, January 30th, or February 15th. This year, we saw a little shift in that because of the grant chaos that was created with this administration last year. So it was more like January 30th, February 15th, February 25th or so. In terms of the deadlines this year, they were a little bit shifted back to give people a little more time to figure their funding situation out. But generally, by the end of February, if you haven't applied for summer programs, there's about maybe 10% or less of the programs available. We'll still be accepting applications come March. So you got to be active early, and that's the same thing with us. So we're making those awards. Those communications are going out for those students who are getting accepted right now. We're still trying to negotiate, get the last few students to accept their positions. But we hope to have that finalized within the next week and a half or so to get communication out to all students with regards to the summer program. So they'll be assigned, and then you've got to fill out your hiring paperwork, and it's still a rush till the end of the semester to be able to start in May for the summer program. And I should add to just general, our program is about 1 in 3 as a competitive level. If you're looking at those off-campus programs, most of them have acceptance rates between 6 and 10%. So you're looking at 1 to 10 to 1 to 16 acceptance rates. So our program may sound competitive, but it is not very competitive compared to those programs that recruit nationally and bring students in.
Any other questions? These have been fantastic, by the way. Okay. Oh.
So spring 2027 applications will open up in the fall. So we will start recruiting faculty projects at the start of the academic year in August. So usually somewhere around mid-September, we'll open up the student application. We'll have enough faculty projects populated, and it usually closes in mid-October. So that each time the application is open for about a month.
And I can plug, if you go to the Office of Undergraduate Research website, I think there's a tab that says Get Started Researching or something like that. And under these, it talks about the research scholar schedule. that
Yep.
Lance has mentioned several times. That's awesome. Gives you a lot of heads up.
Yeah, I also recommend subscribing to our Google Calendar. Everything's on there as well.
For sure.
We'll update the entire 2026, 2027 year, like in August. Naveen asks a question on, is there a competitive format to presenting research beyond symposia that you're aware of? I'm not quite sure can you maybe clarify what you mean by competitive format?
Yeah, sorry. So like in high school I try to do this like ISEF thing, if you're aware of that. It's like, is there anything like that for college students, or is it mainly just presenting at like these conferences?
So I think some of the student organizations I know in like engineering, for example, there are some of these competitions, right, where they, might be building a moon buggy or a drone or robotics or something like that, where there's some competitions involved. In terms of research, usually it's just sort of presenting. And it depends, like it can be competitive to get accepted for a presentation. For example, if you would go to like a international meeting or a national meeting, very, very large meeting, not all the students who submit would get accepted. On campus, it's pretty much 100% acceptance. If you submit to present your research on one of our symposia, we want everybody to sort of have that experience, that opportunity to practice it, because then you feel more equipped to go to that bigger national conference or compete for one of those spots on that bigger stage. But yeah, I think within the actual competitions, that's going to be probably within certain disciplines, and my guess would be most of them we probably find in engineering.
All right, we're almost at time. Any last questions? These have been, again, like I said, wonderful. Okay. Well, again, visit the website to revisit number one, the drop-in hours, also to make sure you understand the scholar schedule and the application process and all that they do. It's fantastic. As a coach, I send students to that site probably every day.
We appreciate it.
Oh, you are so welcome. So basically, wanted to thank you, Lance, for this. This is amazing because this is such a hot topic, which is a beautiful thing in terms of having your office to match that need. And also, just to put a little plug, since we are in the midst of our Healthcare Science and Research Week, we have a panel tomorrow evening, 4 to 5:30 at the Career Center. It's our Health and Human Services Careers panel where we'll have professionals from public health, health systems management, social work, and exercise science coming to talk to us about how they've utilized their majors and gone into those respective fields. And some of them can be quite linear and some can be quite diverse. So we all need to understand how we could pivot with what we know. So excited to have you if you can come to that. You can find the details out at Higher Niner or go to our website and click on the events tab. But thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, Lance. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, always happy to help.
And thank you, students, for coming out and being so wonderful to participate. Y'all have a great day. Looks like today's weather's a little less crazy as yesterday.
Thank you, Lance. And I put the link for tomorrow's panel event on the chat.